At the end of your life, what will be your legacy? What will you leave behind for future generations? For the world, join the World Messenger, Izabela Lundberg, each week as she brings you a new distinguished guest from the business, sports, or entertainment world to share their success, their struggles, and their lessons. They will share their insights into current hot topics that affect everyone. Izabela facilitates an intimate, vulnerable environment to find the true value of humanity and real leadership. Are you ready for your legacy? The legacy that matters?
Hello, my friends. It's Izabela Lundberg here, the World Messenger, and I'm welcoming you for another epic episode of the Legacy Leader Show. Today, I have a very special guest that is coming from Arizona that I absolutely, first time when I saw his image and photo, could not shake off how similarly he looks like Wayne Dyer. And his work is almost a very similar, actually, that I was like, my goodness, is this Wayne Dyer or what? He is award-winning author of the book Notes to Younger Me, which we cannot wait to depict. He's also award winner, a writer, obviously teacher, and social media influencer. But interesting thing about this particular guest, he teaches words of classic wisdom, new thought, and a growth mindset, guys. Without further ado, I am welcoming Gary Hensel. Gary, welcome.
It was nice to talk to you today.
Fantastic. Great having you. Thank you for finding time to see me and actually spend time on the show, as well as obviously for listeners that we're going to hear this in a podcast fashion to hear it. But could you please share just a little bit about your upbringing? Did you grow up in Arizona or did you recently moved? And what parts of the United States you were part of originally?
I grew up in the Chicagoland area, and I was there for about 50 years. So very much a Midwestern, boy. Some people say they can even still hear the Chicago in my, when I talk. And I've been in Arizona now, for quite a while, and I love it. I love the sunshine every day. That's the most important thing.
Wow, we share passion on a couple of things here. I love sunshine, and I'm in Colorado, and we have more sunshine than Hawaii does every year. So I can definitely dispute that. But Chi City, Chi Boy, I love Chicago personally, and it's so fortunate to see how much that city is going through a lot of changes, and not necessarily all of them are very positive right now. And it's been a lot of shifts on so many levels, socially, economically, politically, religiously, a lot of turmoil. Do you mind if you just kind of share your perspective? What you experienced in recent years before that prompted you to move to Arizona? Besides sunshine, did you see any change and shifts that I'm referencing here?
Well, certainly Chicago, one of my graduate degrees is in history, and throughout history, it's been that type of city where it's, tremendous growth and people are really, hardworking, but there's also always been turmoil and things like that. Historically, the city has led in labor movements and things like what we now call Labor Day came out of a riot, the Haymarket riot, and the Pullman strike. And so I don't think it's really changed a lot. We have so much more exposure now in social media where we see these types of things. Of course, in the late 60s, it was infamous for the riots involving Vietnam and civil rights and things like that. And so it's always changing and growing. And I love the Midwest. I love Chicagoland. The only thing is, there's too much gray skies. I got to the point where I need sunshine all the time. And so Arizona provides that for me. I kind of call it God's country. And Colorado, obviously, Colorado also is very much that. I got to view mountains and beautiful scenery and nature and lots of sunshine. And now the Phoenix, I'm in the extreme, I don't really live in Phoenix, but that's the closest major city, and it's the fastest growing city in the United States. So, and there's a lot of Midwest and Chicago influence down here.
That is fantastic. And then thank you for reflecting back. You're right. Social media can very often portray and emphasize on certain things. But in reality might be, as you mentioned, something that is happening and being part of the culture or historically part of the state. But I'm curious now when you mentioned the fastest growing city, Arizona, and sunshine and everything. I also find that Arizona has a amazing blend of nature and very desolate types of cactuses and environment, yet insanely beautiful scenery. Do you mind sharing? Are you partaking in any of the spiritual journeys there? Because I heard from so many that say, Izabela, there's such a strong spiritual magnet there in a way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly the Sedona area is known to have some energy vortexes, but the whole state is beautiful. And I live in the foothills. So mine is, very hilly and a lot of nature. We're surrounded by an Indian reservation and federal park and state park all the way around where I live. And within 1 mile, I can walk into the federal park, which is the Tonto National Forest. I can go 1 mile another way and walk into the Indian reservation. We have wild horses. We see them on a regular basis. They come right into our little town. We have, even in my yard, I get javelinas and all kinds of things, on a daily basis. So there's a lot of nature. And when I chose the house, it was all about the view. That was the number. I have to have a view and from all the windows. And I'm spoiled. I couldn't live in a place that didn't have that. And that's very. And I every day I've always been a big nature walker, and I look to nature to recharge and to reconnect. And I ground every day. And in Arizona, you can go barefoot every day of the year, and so I have a little grass area and I go out there and I'll meditate, I'll read, I'll write, do a little Tai Chi, all barefoot. So we're connecting with the earth. And that's, besides the sunshine, that's another thing. Like in the Midwest, you can't go barefoot, about 6 months of the year there.
That is so true. And if you don't mind, for listeners and people that are watching, explain a little bit about grounding. I'm very familiar with the concept, and I find it to be fascinating, and more people coming on board with that. But it's, for a lot of people, it's still taboo, but that is just something that actually we naturally have accessible to us, but we're not really understanding or fully understanding the value of it, specifically during the current times.
Yes, as I continued to grow spiritually, I started adapting the quantum physics of understanding energy and how we exchange energy with each other and the earth. And it really is the secret to the entire universe, the vibrations, the frequency. And as humans, we're just scratching the surface in this area of technology and medicine and all those things. And so as you start embracing that, you understand that we are of nature. We are part of nature. And we wear, especially the last 100 years or so, we wear a lot of rubber and plastic on our feet, which does not conduct energy. We know that. And so too often we're not connecting with the pure energy of nature. And I believe it. I've seen it. Like I can go and sit for a half hour barefoot to the earth, and you start feeling better. And if you do that on a regular basis, and it's the same with the sunshine, getting lots of sun, that natural energy, as well as obviously vitamin D and things like that. Those two things, and then of course getting out in nature, walking. And I think it makes your meditation stronger, things like that, with that. So the idea of grounding is to get your bare feet to the ground. It can be grass, dirt, even things like concrete will work because it's still a natural But obviously nothing that's carpeting or plastic or rubber or synthetic. And that the more you do that, I think the better you're going to feel. I've experienced it.
And that is great, share. Scientifically, it's been proven. And for everybody also that are not familiar, it's a documentary out there that it's literally called The Grounding. And I'm seeing very interesting healing, transformation, but also, as you said, connection to the nature, because also help us to disconnect and demagnetize from technology and everything else we're doing that we're not even realizing. Sitting in front of computers, using technology, constantly being in the front of the screen, right? So has a tremendous benefits, even though some people are more seeking that spiritual path. Even if you're not, I feel like everybody can benefit from it.
Yeah, and research is being done on grounding, on sun exposure, on being around water. There's some
Mhm.
very good scientific papers proving that this has benefits to your health. So some people say it like they want to be at the beach. Sometimes I sit beside a river and write and read and things like that. So and of course, those are the natural elements of life. So they make sense. And when you live in a climate anywhere in the world where you're maybe stuck in the house 6, 8, 9 months of year, and you're not getting that grounding, you're not getting the sun, you're not out in nature. And then we have like what we call SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And so it's more than just the lack of vitamin D. I think it's a combination of a whole bunch of things. And you mentioned the toxicity of all the technology. Even right now, we're using technology. I know you probably are. I'm on wireless. We got our cell phones and we have all this stuff.
Yes.
And so we're carrying that energy. And so think of it that way. Think of it as like detoxing. To get out and ground, you're sending energy to the earth and you're bringing good energy back up. So it's a conduit thing.
Very, very true. And with the current events, as everybody's seeking alternatives, right? How they can contribute, or how can they do little things to tweak just to feel better, right? Or support other people. I find that the wisdom of knowing what worked for us in the past, as well as learning right now, definitely help with the obviously the growth and change in the mindset. So since you are also expert in classic wisdom and the new thought, as well as the growth mindset, do you mind sharing some of the golden nuggets that you also found that are very, very important, either through your book, Notes of to my younger self, or younger me, or through some experiences through your clients and through your work? Because everybody's kind of trying to get a silver bullet, right? But what is fundamentally important for us to be able to obtain on our own?
Well, and certainly in studying just human nature, but great thinkers throughout time in all different nationalities and cultures. We're finding people thousands of years ago were saying significantly profound things that can really have a good effect, a positive effect on us right now. And we do continue to develop technology from a science base, but the ultimate secret is going to be when we understand the power we have within us. And for instance, like healing,
Mm.
how powerful we are. That will be the greatest leap in technology. And so we look at the great thinkers, and they had some great wisdom. The American Indian, the Native Americans. I have several different tribes around here. Actually, a famous area where some significant famous figures in American history were right here within miles of my house. And we, at that time, you go back 250 years, 200 years, 150 years, we thought of them as savages. And now we
Mhm.
can look back at much of the wisdom that they believed in and they taught. The relationship they had with nature is much healthier than ours
Mm.
is, and the relationship they had with each other. And so again, we can look back in history and learn so much, and it's so relevant to us. But the core, like we talked about, and it has to do with that energy. I believe that we are we are actually empty space. It's just, when we're vibrating, we create something we can see, something we can touch. And we're learning more. I've talked about, like, about every 5 years, they prove another one of Einstein's theories. So he was talking about this stuff 100 years ago, and it took him that long to be able to prove. And it's all about energy, frequency, vibration. And then as humans, when we're vibrating at a little bit lower level than what's natural or healthy for us, then that's when we bring the negativity in our lives. I really believe in the like attracts like, and
Yeah.
science is proving that more and more every day. And so if we're down, we're surrounding ourselves with people that are negative, that are pessimistic, that complain a lot, that we attract that, and that gets within inside of us, and we're actually lowering our frequency. And of course, obviously, the reverse of that is that when we're vibrating at a high level. Think of when you're just really feeling good, you're in the flow, you're viewing life as beautiful, you're productive, you're helping and giving to other people. You're vibrating at a higher frequency. So one thing that we can do, a simple thing, besides connecting with nature, which is important, is surround ourselves with people that are vibrating at a really high level. That
That
is
is so powerful.
huge. It's huge. And we don't realize that. So sometimes you have to sit back and go, who are the 5 most significant people in my life? Who are the 10 most significant? And think about them. Sometimes they're family members, friends, somebody, coworker, a boss, all kinds of things. But if you have one of these people in your sphere, sometimes you can move them completely out of your life. But if it's like family and stuff, you may not be able to, but you can limit your exposure. And when you are exposed to them, you go in and understand that I'm going to repel some of this stuff. I'm not going to get down into that, arguing about politics or whatever it is, and you start, the more you surround yourself with positive people, you're going to find your life change, because they're vibrating, you're picking up that energy, you're vibrating at a higher level, and now things are happening for you.
Wow, and it's a lot there that you just shared, and it's so powerful because it is a mindset, right? And it's a shift that everybody needs to take in consideration. If they're already happy and fulfilled and where they want it to be, fantastic. But very rarely, very few people can say that. It's a work in progress, so we need to adjust and focus on that. But I also love that you mentioned Native American culture and principles and beauty. I always been fascinated by it, and I remember as a little kid crying when we would be watching cowboy and Indians fighting, and I always felt like, why they're killing them, what's going on? And then sometimes you can't obviously change the history, but I'm fascinated to learn what types of tribes are part of the area that you are at. And when you also said, wow, horses, are we talking about Mustangs? What are we talking about?
Well, yeah, the wild horses are fascinating. I'll send you some pictures. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I posted on Twitter a picture of a wild pony
Wow.
that was in the area. So
Little
that is,
baby.
yeah, that's a real energizing to, when I first moved here, and I was trying to find a place to read and write, because I had been living on the Colorado River in northern Arizona, and I was right on the river every day. So I missed that. So I found a river here not too far, and it's on the Tonto National Forest. And it was the middle of summer, so it was very hot. And so I started driving. I spent the whole day looking for places to a perfect place to read and write and meditate. And I stopped about 20 times along this river. And every time I stopped, there was wild horses. They were in the water because it was so hot out. They were all, and so that day I probably saw at least 50 wild horses. And I had just moved to the area. So, wow, it was fascinating and energizing, um, and, so that type of beauty in your life. And then you start noticing the simple things, the nature that comes in. I have hummingbirds in my yard. every day. Just the beauty of those simple things and what they mean to you. Now, in my area, the most significant tribe was the Apache, and there are several famous chiefs in American history that were, in fact, and right here, just a few miles from my house, was Fort McDowell, which was one of the Army's original outposts in trying to, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Southern California, as the Caucasians, the white men, were moving across the country and settling, and so obviously that's where this original Indian reservation that's in this area was originally generated. And there's a lot of them in Arizona, a lot of different tribes and different reservations and things like that. So that's fascinating. I love being close to history too.
That is fantastic. Me too, obviously being European and being my favorite subject in addition to geography, but being part of the culture that has so much history, coming to United States was a contrast, but then I loved the Native American history and everything else. So thank you for sharing, because I was participating years ago at the little town Gallup in outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they had traditional Native American dances. So I did see Apache among other tribes, and everybody keeps saying it's like similar, the same. I'm like, no, if you really wanted to know and depict, I mean, it just the colors, the outfits, the dancing that they performed were just so breathtaking and so fascinating. By far, one of my most fascinating experiences I had in the US.
Good. And you live in a beautiful area as well. And I know right now are you still up in the mountains?
I am still up in the mountains, and right now I'm actually with the view in the background of the conference / playroom space, because my place right now, they're doing a lot of remodeling and drilling and etc. Apparently pipe bursts. So for all viewers and listeners, if you hear the noise and if you see people passing by, this is the reason why I'm here, because again, show goes on. I wanted to create this phenomenal new content, but in the same time, you just adopt. It's like what happens, right? But right now it's a gorgeous sunny day. We had a couple of days of storm and whiteout, and now I'm just like taking all that in. As you just said, we don't have a hummingbirds at the moment, but we do have so many beautiful opportunities to just enjoy the nature and connecting with the nature during the crazy times, right?
Yes. Yes. Next summer, I think I'm going to be about a month up near you. And some time in the mountains. So just, I have one of my daughters lives there and a new granddaughter. So we'll spend some time there.
Fantastic. Definitely
Yeah, we'll have to try
let's
to.
talk and look forward to see you here, because what we need to do obviously during the times when it's overwhelming, and I say I'm dealing with a lot of professionals, right, that they're dealing with a lot of challenges, and some of them have family and some of them they're on their own, and some of them feel isolated and overwhelmed and overworked and stressed out. And I always say the easiest, the cheapest, the free thing that is out there, it's step out and fresh air, and also the nature. So with those teachings, obviously, do you mind now share some of the golden nuggets of the notes to younger self? What prompted you to write the book, and what wisdom you acquired you can really help and with this kind of a crisis mode for a lot of people? Even though a lot of people think they're not in the crisis mode, they don't realize how stressed out and disconnected from the nature or their own and eternal well-being.
Absolutely. And that book was very personal. It was to a younger me. And the concept was to be able to sit on a bench with a 6-year-old me, a 10-year-old me, a 15-year-old me. And like all of us, different childhoods and cultural and religious backgrounds and all types of things. And many of us grow up and we're insecure, we're anxious, we're we're frightened of things, and so we spend a lot of time in a survival mode, trying to fit in and trying to achieve things. And I'd love to be able to sit down with that younger me and just and give him a hug. And so that's what I did in the book, and I wrote it very personal. So there's parts of it that won't resonate with people, but I thought that's what I had to do to keep it authentic. For instance, like an example would be like, it took me, over 50 years to realize that I'm an introvert. I never thought of myself that way, because I was always playing sports, and I got into, the corporate world. I was in leadership positions. I taught for 20 years in academia, so I was always around people a lot, and get charged by it, especially when I was in the classroom. But then, as I look back, I realized that like I would come out of the classroom, and then I needed, you know, you needed some downtime, like away from people. So again, as you're younger, you see some of these things as like faults, like why do I like to be alone a lot, and you think of that in a negative term. And it took me my whole life to realize, like, I could hug that child and say, you're an introvert, and that's a strength. You will use that throughout life to reflect and to grow, especially spiritually. And that's when you're reconnecting with nature. That's when you're reading a lot, which is a huge muse for me, reading. It gets my mind going, and then I piggyback on ideas of great thinkers and things like that. So there's a lot of examples of that, and I talk to myself about how powerful we are inside, and we're always looking externally for people's approval, or for medicine to give us a pill, or to be popular, or to make a lot of money, or whatever. All of those things you're trying to and create security. One thing I talk about is that change is constant. It's the only thing that is. And we try to, like, get in the right job and save enough money and buy a house and have the perfect family and all those types of things, thinking that's going to give us security. When in fact, what we need to do is embrace the constant change. And so when the negative things happen in our lives, instead of going, why me, we start going, oh, the universe or God, whatever you're comfortable with, is nudging me. They want me to go into a new direction. And so it can be painful at times, divorces, bankruptcies, you've lost your house, you've lost your business, marriages, severe illnesses, you've lost loved ones. And obviously you're in that, it's extremely painful. I'm not trying, but the beauty is when you can find the gift in that setback, that heartbreak, that loss, whatever it is, because we're all going to experience it throughout our lives. When you can look for the gift, what's the positive that can come out of this? And it is there. It's not always easy to find. We're human, and we'll go back and forth. So things like that, basic, simple messages that I would love to share with that. Everything's going to be okay. Stay on your track. You are worthy. There's a huge one that we all struggle with, and I think I start the book with that you are worthy. You are loved, because so many of us are afraid that we're not lovable. And then we get in unhealthy, toxic relationships because we're trying to find somebody that will love us, and we're not vibrating at a high level. So what do we attract into our life? Somebody else that's not vibrating at a high positive level, and the two of us are feeding off each other. And usually when things like divorces and stuff come, one person is growing apart from the other, and many times it's one person is growing and the other one is not. And so again, all those simple messages are very, very simple, just core ideas that and always look within for approval, look within for growth, look within for healing. all of those types of things.
Very, very powerful. You will be surprised when you mentioned, that initially in some of the thoughts in the book were exclusively only for you, but that is so very relatable because I'm sure so many people discover that too. And we're different types of personalities in different stages of life, right? Some things push us, like when I was younger, I was very introvert, but then later I became in my teenage years due to issues and stuff that were going on, extrovert. I had to speak up for myself. And I kind of drove over years on that. But then I also realized how it's great to have an opportunity to switch and really account that from the different perspective. So, and recognizing that is okay. We change, but also what is underlying trait and personality or desires. So permission to grow and explore, right? And adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with obviously with the book and work we've been doing, you mentioned you've been also teaching in the past, but also you've been quite a bit of social media influencer. Do you mind telling, because it's very refreshing to see someone who is not in stuck mindset, who is seasoned, experienced, well-traveled, and worked in large corporations and now working for himself and has his own life figured out what works the best, but also leverages technology so well. So do you mind sharing how these threads help you with the mindset and of achieving not only your goals and objectives, but also as through those goals and objectives, obviously helping others to thrive?
And there's a great example that if I wouldn't have started writing and understood the importance of sharing that, I probably wouldn't be on social media at all. It's really, it sounds funny, but it's really not my thing. I
Uh-huh.
don't do selfies. I don't, post every bit of my life, almost none of it.
Not your every breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, yeah. And exactly. And I have a theory: the more people post like that, the more their life is probably not what they're posting. But
Exactly.
and that's what we were talking about earlier. That you got to get approval, and you got to show people you're happy and having fun and adventurous and all these things. But I understood, because I was a department chair for business management and marketing, and I taught mostly leadership, especially towards the end. But I understood marketing. I understood viral marketing, which has really come about in the last 20 years or so with social media and the internet and things like that. And I did some research, and I found out that the best site supposedly for authors is Twitter. So I'm on a lot of platforms, but that one is the most. And so I just started posting quotes from famous great thinkers, and some quotes from my own writings and my books and things like that. And quickly started getting this huge following. And so it kind of became a life of its own, where I spend a couple hours a day now just answering people. And I have people from all over the world on an everyday basis: Australia, South Africa, Brazil, Russia, India, England. And it's time consuming, and it takes me away from my writing, but I'm learning to understand the importance of it. And I'm touching people. And even when I'm having a bad day or life's beating me up, then there'll be 10 people that day from all over the world. They're thanking me for helping them get through a tough time, and that
Yes.
it's just like teaching. When you teach, you're not so much, just throwing information at people. You're connecting with them, and you're pulling out what's already inside of them, helping them. And it's very energizing. When you leave the classroom, like, you're on a high, you're vibrating at that high level because you felt the connection with so many people, and so social media is somewhat like that. You're feeling that you're doing something positive and helping people. So that's the feedback, the love, the energy I get back from all the time that I put into it. So it's, again, it wasn't something I planned. It very much grew organically, I probably have over 130, 135,000 followers now on different platforms. And I think when I started, I thought, oh, I'll get a couple thousand followers and, just kind of do my thing. Again, it's become as important as the writing.
Well, that is fantastic because when we resonate with the right group and right people, now they have access to you, but you also have opportunity to expand your reach, and make a tremendous impact in their lives. And it's such a beautiful exchange of giving and learning because we always learn from others as well, right? So that's great. I
And not
kudo
to
you because
miss
so many people will not even try to experiment with that.
Yeah, and not to miss this opportunity because social media can get such a bad name and image. And certainly there are, I post some beautiful things. It could be like Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Mandela, and somebody will come on there and say something negative. I never interact with that negative energy.
Mm.
Um, but I found this huge group of people all over the world that are very positive, very optimistic. They see humankind as awakening. There's a lot. So social media, just like anything else in life, can be used for good or bad. I
Mm.
don't associate with any of the negative on social media. Like I said, I won't interact with anybody and I never post politics. That's not what I'm about. And so there's all these beautiful people out there that are doing just wonderful things. And to be exposed to that energizes you every day versus just watching the news and feeling how horrible the world is.
But that is such a great example, but also current events. Right now, everything is virtual anyway, and having already that platform and opportunity to connect with people from all over the world and get a fresh perspective and point of view and expand upon, I think it's a huge. So kudos for doing that, because as they always say, whenever it's the will, that is always the opportunity, right? To show, and that's the way to show it. So when we're willing to try new things or when we're willing to serve, it's just a matter now how we're serving. It's so many different avenues. It used to be classroom as a teachers, both of us are educators or former educators, but it's in our blood, right? You always educate, but you always learn as well. So I think that is the mindset that I find tremendously important right now, because it's so much needed to adjust, isn't it? With the current limitations, and if we just focus what we're limited in the negative aspects of it, we'll miss on all of these great opportunities and what's available, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I had started doing some like master classes before the virus. And one I put together with a Dr. Beth Frades, who teaches at Harvard Medical School, and her and I had a master class called Thrive. And it was a
Mm.
great balance of she is into holistic medicine, and again, certainly the body aspect of that. She's done some groundbreaking work, and so we collaborated, and then the virus hit and we had to stop doing that. And I'm very much I would love to be one-on-one. Like, I'm a hugger. So I really connect with the audience, and so obviously I miss that, but you adapt, adjust, and when it gets over, I will probably continue working with her. She's one of the groundbreaking people in lifestyle medicine, and I'll do other things as well. Again, trying to get out there and just connect, because I'm an introvert, but I still need that energy, and it'll come back. And I think we talked before, the virus, um, fascinating in that I think you learn a lot about the people around you. You know, uh, how many of them are full of fear versus the opposite. Like you were talking about a few minutes ago. If you're full of fear, it's easy to get on social media and complain about politics or complain about somebody else's behavior. You're judging, you're looking without, you're becoming self-righteous. you're lowering your energy vibration, but you can get on there and start saying positive. There's beautiful stories of people are doing and giving and helping, and so again, and also spending time alone. Obviously, being an introvert, I love time alone. I call it downtime. Like I got to be by myself so I can
I
think.
call it daydreaming.
Yeah. But so many people are scared to spend some time with themselves. So if they just keep rushing, as fast as they can and working and making money and always be doing things, they never have to spend time with themselves. So maybe the virus has given us an opportunity as a whole to spend a little more alone and do some reading, do some meditating, look for positive things in your life. And certainly going back to the 80s, we started the beginning of both learning and working from home. And it had a long 20-30 year process as corporate America was trying to get used to it. And and we've seen now that's kind of been accelerated, right? And we're learning that a lot of people don't necessarily need to go into the office 40, 50 hours a week and then spend another 20 or another 10, 15, 20 hours a week commuting. Then maybe they can be productive. And so it's kind of accelerated a lot of things in our society. From a business standpoint, it accelerated changes that were already happened, how we shop and how we do things. And so certainly, working from home is one of those things. We were moving in that direction, and now we just got a big push. And I've heard from several corporate leaders that they weren't really comfortable with it, but now 6-9 months later, they're realizing maybe I can reduce my office space that I'm renting and the utilities and all those types of things, and I'm getting more comfortable with that telecommuting and telework and telemedicine. That's another example. We were moving in the area, and now it just had a huge leap where people are talking to their doctors through Zoom. And they don't always have to go in, and you have to do the commute, you have to sit in the office, it ends up being a 2-3 hour thing. Maybe you can do it in 15 minutes right from your home.
Yes, and a lot of those changes actually are, some of them are increasing engagement and increase in performance, and some of them are obviously dependent of the work ethics, the types of personalities creating the decrease. But you're spot on, it definitely does shifts and change how we are thinking about not only current work environment, but future work as well, of teaching, as well of writing and disseminating information, and also interacting. If I look outside, I see people with sunglasses and masks. I don't see their eyes. I don't see their mouth. I actually feel more connected with you, even though you virtually, I can't touch you, but I see your eyes, I see your smile, and I feel more connected. So it's such a huge shift, right? That certain connectiveness comes in very different ways, as well as opportunities for us to collaborate and make things happen. So you mentioned about the different things that are kind of being put on hold, but what is left? I feel like you did so many things in your lifespan. What is left in your bucket list that you really want to make sure you catch on? And if you don't mind sharing that.
I've traveled a lot throughout the world, and again had huge peaks and valleys in my life. I'm basically on my 4th major career. I've got 6 grown adult children. I've got grandkids, coming, and so there's not a lot of like places I need to see or goals I need to set. It's this continued spiritual growth. Just keep getting more in touch with the core self, and it's kind of fun. It's to the point where I don't have to impress people anymore. I don't care about what people think about me. When you're younger, that's the things you're dealing with all the time. I don't have to fight to make enough money to prove my worth or something like that. I'm finally, all the spoils of all the years of hard work and things, I'm able to to spend the majority of my time and energy enjoying the people in my life and the simple things in life, and just keep looking within and growing, so I think it'll sound boring, but it might be the most fascinating, the most energetic growth years of my life, as I can shut out a lot of that noise.
And I'm sure with a lot of practice that you put on your spiritual growth and wisdom and experience and life lessons, you arrived, and I can see why is that. And I also find, and I keep always saying, so many beautiful things are actually the most profound, simple things, and answer is always in simplicity. Even Einstein said that, and we always think the solution is something different, that we need something more in order to either be happy or feel accomplished or whatever might be the case. And more we go on simple route, that is where all the beautiful things allow us to then blossom and expand and grow. But obviously you've been doing a lot of things that touches not only influencing, teaching, learning, but also leading. And I'm curious, with obviously being on the Legacy Leader Show, what do you envision, and what do you envision earlier in your life that you're now looking as like, Izabela, I would love to be known for this, or I would like this to be my legacy because of X, Y, and Z?
Well, certainly, your writings, you hope that they can go on beyond you physically in this life. That would be fascinating for somebody, 50, 100 years in the future, to be touched or energized by that. In other words, you keep teaching even beyond the physical body. So I think that that's a good feeling, that's a muse for me, I you have to share. You can do all this learning and growing. If you all just keep it inside, then you're really not getting it. That it's about sharing and touching with other people. Hopefully some people, for instance, my notes book, I've had a lot of people tell me they read it and then gave it to their children that are going through like bullying at school or self-esteem issues, or all the things you go through in junior high and high school and college and things like that. So that's fascinating, that maybe some people will have a little bit smoother ride because of a few simple things that I wrote. But the simple things, I talk about it in all my books. And I realized when I started writing that when I was in the corporate world, I was always trying to simplify things because everything was so chaotic. So I was a workaholic, and I worked a lot of hours and was trying to control everything. So I would simplify. So when I got into teaching, that became one of my strengths. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, and I always tried to simplify the material for the student. And so then when I started writing, I realized that's what I had to do with my writing. And it is very simplistic. And that's on purpose, so we could touch people at all different educational levels and different ages. And life doesn't, I think there's genius in simplicity. We try to
absolutely, I can't agree more. And that's how we can relate to so many people. And that's what's all about. Why to use big words? Why to try to press upon? Why constantly to compete and all of the noise that is irrelevant when you have opportunity to connect and reach out as many people you truly can? Why not?
Absolutely. And that gets us a lesson for all of us in our lives. We don't need a lot of material things. We don't need our lives to be complicated. A lot of that we create for ourselves. When you start understanding that you are worthy, you are loved, you start doing things that feel good for you. You're not always trying to impress somebody else or make somebody else happy, and or collecting material things so you feel secure, or all these layers of success that you must do in order to feel worthy. So simplify. What are the things that are important to you? Who are the people that are important to you? And then you can start embracing change. So many people feel like they're stuck. Well, I can't just change my life. I can't just quit this job. And you'd be surprised. I've been through some huge changes and stuff. What you're doing is you're giving up your power when you say I can't.
And control.
Yeah, you're
Perceived control and perceived power, actually.
versus empowering yourself. That you can move physically, you can change careers, you can decide you don't need that much money to be happy, you don't need that many possessions. I believe that we buy possessions for how they make us feel,
Absolutely.
which
And
isn't
it's
really.
very temporary, nothing lasts, and then we need another fix. It's like addiction on so many levels. Either we drink or either we buy products or pair of shoes. I used to buy tons of shoes. It's the same thing. It's addiction. If it gets out of control and if it's just something that gives you very short-lived satisfaction because it's outside of ourselves, it's not within, right?
So you need a lot less than you think.
Oh, absolutely.
you know
Yes.
and you look within. People always say, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Yes, you do. I always say, it's in there. Many times you're scared of it, or you're just, all the noise is keeping you, but what really makes you happy, what you want to do with your life, and how you want to spend your time, and who you want to spend your time with. Those things deep inside.
But it's a very good point because a lot of speed and a lot of chasing and a lot of doing, we're not allowed into be being. So a lot of specifically younger generation, they're graduating from high school and immediately trying to decide who they're going to be at university level, what degree or profession they should be seeking. They don't even know who they are. I feel like that's the huge gap in opportunity for self-discovery. So everything you were sharing, Gary, is definitely a phenomenal path for listeners and viewers to really step back and allow that self-discovery. For somebody who is in tuned, it's easier, but a lot of people I found to be very lost because they don't have sense of self-identity. Because they want to be a million different things, but they cannot be all those. And they're looking for wrong ways, for wrong answers, for wrong things to find it.
Yep, absolutely. Life can be simpler if you let it.
Yes. So in closing, what would you like to leave our audience with as a remarks for them to keep this forefront, that obviously not only gain you tremendous success, but also can help them to anchor themselves and succeed with whatever battles they may be dealing with at the moment?
Happiness is a choice. It's an inside job. You can have horrible things happening to you in your life externally, but you still get to decide every moment whether you want to be happy or not. And again, like we talked about, look within. Don't look without for the happiness. And as it goes to leadership, to really be a good leader, an effective leader, a servant leader, you have to have your core self emotionally healthy. Usually when we have bad leadership traits, it's because we haven't done the inner work, and we have jealousies and insecurities and that type of thing. So from the leadership aspect, again, look within, get yourself healthy, and the rest will take care of itself.
Brilliant. Thank you for listening to Legacy Leader Show. If you enjoyed the content and had a positive experience, then please leave us a positive rating. In addition, leave us a positive review whenever you are listening on whatever platform that might be. Make sure your friends and family also know about the benefit and value that we provide and what we have to offer. Cheers.